welcome to our podcast. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Healing for the Heart's podcast, and it's called People Just Like Us, where we chat with people who are just like us. If you are joining us and you've been around for a long time, then you'll know that we invite anybody who's listening or watching this who feels that they've got something that they want to say, particularly with a mental health slant, to come and join us. So if you're watching and you think you could do this too, or you would like a space to talk about what it is that matters to you, then please do get in touch with us, and we would be more than happy to accommodate you on one of our future podcasts. But I'm delighted today. I have Libby McArthur with me today. I'm delighted because Libby and I have only just met quite recently, so there's not an awful lot that I know about her, so I'm really looking forward to getting to know her in this podcast as well. So Libby, why don't you take the floor and why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, so most people would know me from my acting, only because it's the highest profile, but one of the things I've never stopped doing in my whole life, Shauna, is what I call creative self-expression workshops. In fact, the truth is I don't ever know what to call them, because, you know, when you told me your podcast was called People Like Us, I thought, oh, what a great title, because part of my job, I think, in life is to understand that when we start to work with story, we understand that most people are like us. You know, basically there are no new issues, there are no new problems, and if you put a human being in a test tube over a Bunsen burner, in essence, we're all the same. You know, there's much more that unites us than divides us. But we don't think that way. We think around separation. We have separation thoughts. We have all manner of habits that think that we are more divided than we are, and we have projections, and we withhold our love, and it gets us into all sorts of trouble. So, you know, my background, my mother had 4 boys, 4 girls, and 3 nervous breakdowns, and I know that's not a funny joke, but part of my gig is black comedy. So in that house there was a lot of madness, as you can imagine. You know, there was poverty, there was hardship, there was castle milk. My dad was a fireman, my mum had been a nurse, and she'd been brought up in Nazareth House as an orphan herself. You know, so there was just a whole kind of sense of being brought up in a very cold house, and being Trampus as your nickname, and you know, and last up the close fancies Libby McArthur, and they all ran up close. But very, very early on, the only thing I knew I could do was tell story, and I could do it well, and I knew it was a gift, and that's something that at the age of 63 soon, every now and again I think about it, and it just warms the cockles of my heart afresh, because I think I always knew that, in the same way that I always could draw, and dogs have always loved me. You know, there was that thing I knew about myself, and it's such a privilege to be able to say that about yourself, that I knew I was a storyteller really early on, even though you know, I was persona non grata in the back court. When it came to the long grass of a summer's evening and I said once upon a time, I had everybody's attention. So basically, really early on, I just knew that my imagination was going to save me. And of course, school was a disaster, because, you know, it was going, your imagination doesn't count. You know, that's not what's working here. Yeah. You know, if you're not academic, and I wasn't, then get to the back of the class. So I was the tutorial kid. I was the one that was kept back. You know, when your pals were watching Scooby-Doo back at home, I was stuck in a classroom with a teacher that was furious for being kept back, you know. Yeah. So I went through school and knew as a storyteller that this was something that I had to kind of find platforms for, basically. And I got my equity card because I did find those platforms. I just kept writing sketches, comedy, But really early on, I knew that in terms of healing, and I knew a lot of healing had to happen in my life, but also in everybody else's life that I was meeting. I knew very early on that creative storytelling was my contribution. Yeah. So at 17, I was already working as a yop, a £23.50 a week yop, doing plays and shows in the Gorbals. I stayed in the Gorbals for nearly 5 years through Thatcher's 80s, and heroin was rife, and there was all manner of special employment programmes and stuff like that to keep me there. Gorbals Fair Society employed me at that point, and I just stayed doing my workshops. So even though my career as an actor has actually gone very well, at one point, nobody works now as an actor. I mean, I don't know if anybody's noticed out there, but there is no work for storytellers. But anyway, what's happened at that point in my life when I was young was, I was in all the homespun product on TV, and there was lots of wee Scottish tours, and most actors my age remember, these halcyon days where we actually worked, and we get paid for it as well, So during that time I was doing two things, and I've always done two things, which is basically my own workshops, my own creative workshops, and at the same time pursuing the career of an actor. So I've worked in mental health. I worked with an organisation called ArtLink in Edinburgh for 3 years. I've worked in prisons. I've worked in Lomos. I've worked in Port Vale. I've worked in Berlin recently. That's where I met your friend Ian. Fantastic time in Berlin. I loved every single minute of it. I've worked in lots of rehab, lots of detox, I've worked with kids in care. I've worked in every school you could imagine. I've worked in most schemes in Glasgow and in Edinburgh. And at the whole time having that tandem thing of writing black comedy with either, I've been in lots of different wee companies, I've written monologues, I've had two-handers, I've been in companies, Penny Mob Theatre Company, Redheads with Peter Mullen and Kate Donnelly. And so through the years, it's all been very kind of, using the arts as the healing, the healing tool that it is, So I've always done that. I've always done my workshops at the same time as I've had an agent going, could you go and audition for blah 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 or whatever,
Yep. So you said about the whole, actors don't have any work anymore. What is that about?
Well, obviously all of us who needed lots of people in a room at the one time during the lockdown had a bit of a dunt to their career, Yeah. But no, I think Scotland is in a bit of a state at the moment in lots of different ways. It's not just the arts. I mean, what we're looking at is we're looking at a government that we are under the cosh of that doesn't rate libraries or theatres, or unless it's for them and such as them. I mean, so for me the one of the big journeys around my profession has been that. And I teach this, that creativity and celebrity are actually again each other. Like if it was Ur Willie and there was a wee angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other, then creativity is for us all. We are literally creators. It's who we are. My spiritual belief says that we are actually the creator. We literally are. We create our lives. We are literally creating every bit of stasis, every bit of joy, every bit of movement, every bit of progress, every relationship. I would go as far as to say our thoughts literally produce our lives, So for me, the work of actually remembering who we are, remembering that we're innocent, remembering that all things said and done, at the end of the day, we need to find a way to forgive ourselves. And I think when people talk about self-love, nobody knows what we're talking about. We start with acceptance, and that's as good as we can get. I think sometimes as human beings, if we actually understood what it would be to accept ourselves and others, then we could, from that premise. But all my workshops have taught me. If people said to me, what are your qualifications? There'd be a bit of silence there. I'd be like, my qualifications. I've been doing this for 45 years.
I think sometimes though we stack up when we talk about qualifications. We have a kind of we have an idea of what we mean by that, but in actual fact, life qualifies you, doesn't it?
I'm an actor. I'm a storyteller. I'm a writer. I'm a director. And in what I've found out from life is that if you really want to know about the human being, and a great actor does, any decent actor really wants to know what's going on at an emotional level between people, which is all drama is. Then you start to find out about yourself, and then you start to find out about the fact that our survival instincts are killing us. And it's to do with this belief in separation. It's to do with this not good enoughness that we believe at core. I had a recent one for myself, Shona. This is something where it was a big kind of like a Homer Simpson duh. At this time of year, you're kind of going, right, I'm going to stop sugar. Right, okay, right, cleanse, detox. Right, so I'm going to lose this weight. Oh, right, I know, I'm going to start swimming. My friend just said you just have to persevere with swimming, but I don't like it. So I was in all that kind of place of watching myself set myself up to fail. So it was almost like since the 1st of January, every Monday that's came up, that ridiculous idea of a Monday morning will start again, and it really dawned on me. I was giggling, because one of my biggest tenets is don't forget to laugh. there are no new issues. The reason I love theatre so much is when you create company and you start to share, you realise that you're not alone. Everybody's doing this. We are all doing this. We all don't love ourselves. We all make ourselves wrong. We're all in this guilt and the shame. We all have that, core sense of not good enoughness. And it's brilliant to find out that you're not alone with that, because then you can get the giggles around it and go, no, wait to
yeah, but it's interesting in that as well, though, that, so I would agree with you, the story, our stories are all intertwined, and in actual fact there are similarities between all of us, but actually the vast majority of us spend a lot of our time trying to hide all of those things from everybody else.
Absolutely.
So I suppose I'm interested, you're talking about all the different things, you've been in various jails, you've been in schools, doing stuff in communities. What is it that you're seeing as you go around and as you meet people and you're talking about, that gift of an actor and just being able to watch and see what's going on at an emotional level with people? What is it that you're seeing? What's happening out there in society?
Well, what I'm seeing is what I saw the other day when I was saying I had that Homer Simpson duh moment. We're actually attracted to our guilt. We're actually attracted to our shame. And it sounds complex if I try and understand it myself, because quite often I get insights that I feel are kind of almost gifted right to the heart as opposed to the head, and then I have to analyse it and work it out. But this self-sabotage that we're all doing all the time, and everybody's doing it, and this is the thing, we're beginning to understand now that circumstances don't help, and money doesn't even help. Even though some people think it helps a bit, it does a bit. But, there's a bit of a joke now that people will understand if you say, oh, my pal's a millionaire, and you might go, oh, is he getting support? We're beginning to understand now that it's not about, when we fall in love or when we get the gig or when we win the lottery. We're beginning to understand now that when you fall in love and you get the gig and you get win the lottery, you'll just be bringing yourself with you and all that baloney and all that BS that you've got. So what I'm beginning to understand now is that there's a journey that actually is about acceptance, and for me, I would have this wee joke where you might look at your left hand and go, right, here's my current reality and it looks like shit, I don't like it. Oh, here's my right hand and it's the vision. Oh, the vision. Oh, the vision. Oh, forget current reality. I'm going to just focus and turn my attention to the vision, the light, look at the vision. And I've worked in enough mental health situations to know therein lies the madman, who's ditched his current reality for the vision, so then you might think, oh, but, this is terrible. If you lose your vision, you just stay in your bed, if you're just going, oh, my current reality is a bit shit and I just can't get over this hurdle and I'm feeling overwhelmed, and and that's what mental health is. It's despair. It's when you're whelmed overly and you go into this kind of get your head above the parapet. The thing about mental health is we are all suffering. We are all in recovery.
Well, we would say that we've all got mental health, the same way we've all got physical health. And there are some days that our mental health is better than others, the same way as there are some days our physical health is better than others.
We know that about each other. We know there are times when people are ruminating to the extent that you jump up closes and in hedges when you see them coming, and it might be because they've had a new baby and they're stressed out they're not, or it might be they never got the grant, or it might be they've lost something, or they're in a divorce, or and we know that there's sometimes when our mental health's really, really poor, and it can be the person that you think is the one that's cutting it the most in life. Certain circumstances hit them, and within 10 seconds they're hysterical.
Absolutely, because as you said, it's not dependent on the circumstances, isn't it?
One of the great things about doing the work that I do is I can be working with, the Glasgow Disability Alliance, which I'm doing just now. I'm directing a show and they're going into myself and the brilliant George Drennan and his fabulous wife Nadia. We're all working together to bring this show in at the moment with the GDA, and it's brilliant working with folk who are dealing with that kind of disability, that you have to sit in a bloody wheelchair. In order to live your life, you have to get wheeled about or wheel yourself about, because when we work at core beliefs level, what we're basically saying is, you could be in the back of a limousine, you could be homeless on a bench, you could be in Berlin in an isolation cell, you could be in the toilet pan having diarrhea, or you could be on the throne like King Charles, but you're still just sitting, and what you bring to that sitting is what life means, what your life will mean to you.
But also at the end of the day, I think you touched on it a minute ago, that it doesn't matter where I go or what situation I go into, I take me with me.
Yeah.
And if the hypothesis is correct, then actually we're all bringing all of that stuff that's there. And if we don't have an opportunity to look at it and actually to grapple with some of it, and maybe even to make peace with some of it, then in actual fact we always take that turmoil into whatever situation that we go into.
And so, working in Berlin, it was brilliant because, one of the things I feel very clear about is we are not our thoughts. We are not our bodies. We are not our circumstances. That's not who we are. And when you can create a watcher, when you can create that person that actually doesn't forget to laugh and starts to share and ask for help and be more vulnerable and surrender all that stuff, and the knowledge that our survival instincts are killing us, the bullshit that we front up, and all drama's about basically is what is the stuff that we're trying to conceal? What is the stuff that we're willing to reveal? And, therein lies the difference, And any great drama is about, what happens at an emotional level and creating a character that you care about, that you give a toss about, and putting them in character-crushing compromises so we can see what breaks down. And the terrible truth about us human beings is if we can get away with not looking at ourselves, we'll keep going until we go mad or collapse.
I think that's one of the interesting things about drama though as well, because there's certainly a whole move round about drama in terms of the therapeutic use of drama, where folks can actually start to think about what it might be like to be somebody else.
Yes.
And that then creates possibilities for people so that we're not stuck anymore. There's actually a place that we can move to, and allows you then to actually not be you, at least for a short time, and see what it might feel like to be somebody else. So that stuckness gets removed.
And it's not about either or. It's about looking at the similarities. It's actually understanding that what's driving them is what's driving you, and what drives us is the belief that we're not good enough. And what we then do is we compensate with all manner of compromises and all manner of masks and all manner. And for me, it's the best tool. So when I go into work in any situation, whether it be working with wee girls in care or working in schools or then the idea that I can bring in this imaginative, creative journey is just getting away from react. And what happens with react? I've loved it, Shona, when we went to Berlin, we had the guys in the show that we were working in, they all came forward with a placard in front, and first of all, you don't know what the word is that they're singing about, because they just start off going, R is for the rage I feel whenever, and it's R, and then it's E, and then it's A, and it's react, and then we change it about, and then it becomes create, and we add an extra E, and the E's in, C is for the cam, and it's just the idea of what happens when we stop reacting and start creating, I was 20 when I had this fantastic breakthrough moment. I was working in a school in Edinburgh called Kibble, and the kids were all kind of taxied in, because they were all school refusers. And anyway, I was so naive at that point in my 20s. I would say I could work with maybe a dozen kids, and you could see the folk looking at me going, "Oh, that'll be right," So I had 5 kids, and it was too much for me. They were acting out in ways that I wouldn't even talk about it. It was all manner of mentalness going on. Anyway, I ended up in the break upstairs in tears, and this male nurse had kind of came to my rescue and made me a cup of coffee, and I was going, I don't know what I'm doing. Who am I kidding? I'm an actor. I'm a drama worker. These kids need drugged. They need straitjackets. I don't know what to do. Anyway, he was kind of laughing, and he sat with me and he talked to me about the case study notes, and things had happened to these children you wouldn't be wishing your worst enemy, And he said, I'm going to leave you, and he went out, and I thought, right, okay, how do I feel? Worse. I feel worse now. I'm even more. So I did what I normally did. I kind of offered it up to the gods. I kind of just went, I don't know what I'm doing. And in my mind's eye, I saw the justice scales, and I saw the case study notes that he talked about, which I wasn't allowed to see, of course, but he talked about them on one set of scales, and then I saw on the other set of scale the acting out, and I realised the needle in the middle had gone waggled to perfection, to 12 o'clock. And I realised that anybody, you, me, anybody, given that set of circumstances, act out in that way. Yeah. And in that moment, I realised those kids didn't need fixed. They didn't need sorted. They didn't need to be different. What they needed was understood and accepted. But I also realised they were in a reactive state, reacting to what other people did, which was almost none of their business. Right. Said nothing about those kids. Yeah. Absolutely nothing about them. And here was me looking at this perfection that they had achieved with this needle going, doo, and I realised that my energy around them being wrong and my I know mind about how they ought to behave was getting in the way. And I realised it was me that needed to change. Yeah. And what I was doing, Shona, with the kids was I'd given them a fairy tale, which we physically cut up, the end off, binned, and then they were standing on chairs like a kind of democratic forum, bidding for the right to finish the story and how the story. Brilliant idea. What a brilliant idea I had brought in. Went back downstairs and the children were different. Yeah. They were different.
And sometimes like in that though, the difference comes when actually it's us that changes. It's not somebody else.
So that's what I'm trying to do. So when you say to me, what are you doing? I would say, when people hear the word accountability, they don't hear accountability. They don't hear the freedom of that. They don't hear the worth of that. They don't hear the value of that. They don't feel the measuring up of, oh, wow, I'm understanding, because we've forgotten to laugh. We've forgotten to remember we're in this together. We all need to look after each other here because we're all the same and we're all doing it to each other and we're all doing it to ourselves. So we've forgotten to laugh. So what we hear instead of accountability is we hear responsibility. In fact, we don't hear responsibility. We hear blame. In fact, we don't hear blame. We hear fault. And of course, what has been happening to us is we're already overcompensating for this belief that we're wrong and we're bad and we're not good enough. So then somebody like me or you come in kind of going, accountability. And what they hear, it's all your fault. Right. It's all your fault that you get cancer. It's all your fault you live in a house like that. It's all your fault you didn't get that job. It's all your fault you're single. And that's all people hear. Yeah. And it's only when we actually start to reach out and connect in ways that are, I have this wee joke, there's a Scottish word I love, tapsaltiri, 180 degrees away from where we are at. Topsy-turvy, it's a great old word, tapsaltiri. I even put a proposal into schools saying I want to teach tapsaltiriness. Because what we need to start with is this 180 degrees away from where we're at. Because what's happening is because we feel the separation and we think other people are getting it right and other people are sorted and other people know what to do and we don't, then what's happening is we're trying to emulate other people and trying to decide, well, what will happen when I get a gig, when I get a job, when I get married, when I get a house, when I get a car, then it'll happen. Yeah. And of course we know seek and never find. We arrive at these goals, at these wants and needs. And so for me, one of the things I feel quite strongly about is being very clear about the shadow of it all. We're attracted to the guilt. My big realisation was that when I feel not good enough and try to change a thing and then don't manage it because I had that sugar or I had that wheat or I didn't go for my swimming or whatever I do, then the guilt's actually familiar.
That's right.
And therefore I actually get something out of it.
Yes, but you can take that even further than that though, because the guilt's familiar, and so therefore subconsciously we actually sabotage subconsciously because in actual fact there's a familiar place to go.
And John, I would go as far as to say that none of us understand what love is, but we understand what longing is. And we long for a bondedness that never happened. I've never met a bonded family. I've never ever met a bonded family. So we have this longing for something that we think is out there. We've seen it in the movies. You know, we think it's somewhere else that's not where we live. And we have a longing for it. And we substitute our idea for love for that longing. We think, oh, that's love. When you have a longing, all you'd have to do is, have a crush on somebody who's actually emotionally unavailable. And you could call it love because you'd go, oh, there's that longing. That longing because my dad wasn't available because he was stressed out. It's not because he was always doing overtime. There's that longing I felt when my mum was just too busy taking her Valium and being depressed to actually be able to be there with us. We started that longing when we were 6 months, 6 weeks, 1, 2, 3. There's this wonderful saying which I love, which says, by the age of 5, you know you're not the centre of the universe and you've been dissed. By the age of 8, there's a group that don't want you. By the age of 14, you've had that existentialist kind of all by myself feeling. And by the age of 30, you've hit a wall. And see, unless we start communicating properly about healing and start to open our hearts and feel more wholehearted with each other, and that's about surrender. So
it's actually also about getting real with one another,
Yeah.
and actually being able to create spaces that are safe enough to do that.
Fantastic.
Because so often the spaces are not safe to do
And
that.
that's why I work in the way I work, because one of the things that I go on about, whether I'm talking to folk in Berlin or talking to Glasgow Disability Alliance, is I say, listen guys, we need to create company. And creating company is what it's all about. And what I mean by company is, it literally is the 3 musketeers or the 30 musketeers or however many musketeers we've got here. We all have to be in this together. We literally have to just look at our projections. We're all Hector projector here. We're all going. And the great thing about working with, I did a workshop for a bunch of kids when and I made a beautiful board for it, and it was called the C word. And it was basically about the fact that when I was in River City and I was on the TV all the time, kids would come up to me and they'd go, oh man, you're Gina for River City. God, I want to be famous. And I would go, no, you don't. And they would go, I want to be famous. And I would go, famous for what? They would go, for the money. And I go, no, famous for doing what? And they would go, I don't know, anything, football, singing, I just want. And I go, no, do you know what you want? You want to feel safe. You just want to feel heard. You just want to know that the thing that makes your heart sing, you could share with me, and I could go, wow, that's amazing. Look at you, what you've got. That's all you want. And all that happened was you went through school and nobody helped you with that. You went into school and you went, listen, I'm this person, and they went, shut up, you're that guy. You went, no, I'm this guy, and they went, shut up. People are not seen and heard in the way that makes us feel that we have value. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a cultural society thing and all the rest of it. One of the things that we always ask folks on here, and I'm just aware we always try and keep our podcast reasonably short because folks listening have told us that that's what they like, because it's a 20-minute journey they're doing or whatever. So
you have to shut
where
me
we
up,
go,
sure.
that's all right. Moving towards that question that we always ask people, so like if you had a magic wand that you could wave, that you could change one thing, so only one thing, that's the restriction on this, only one thing in our culture that would massively impact mental health and well-being, then what would it be? And I could almost a guess at it, but why don't you tell us?
Education. Yeah. It's about children. It's about the realisation that when we're thinking there's only 2 things going on, we're either ruminating about the past and we're getting into regrets and or we're having hopes or dreams or fears about the future. And for me, when we start to use our imagination properly, then all manner of things open up. So I would go straight into schools very early on, and I would make sure that the creative journey, the imaginative journey is there, threaded through absolutely every lesson. It's there like a stick of rock, and it's seen in a way that, I mean, I don't know about you, Shona, but I'm probably older than you, but when I was at school, drama was something that came second to PE. The bad boys were sent to a drama class. Having said that, drama's like saying weather. I would never be interested in. There's certain, I won't name names, but there's certain places where lots of children go to do drama, and they're gearing them up for the industry, and the excuse they have for auditioning a 5-year-old and making them wrong and making little stars out of is that these people want to be actors. As far as I'm concerned, every decent actor that's been through a process that's made them a celebrity will tell you it almost killed them. They've lose touch with their creativity. So I would go straight in very early doors and start talking about imagination and treating it as it's the cleverestness we've got. Our imagination is the thing that's going to save us. It's going to save us, and it's not dealt with in school. We are still creating wee workers for the Industrial Revolution. Yeah. We've still got these wee programmed people going out there kind of going, where's the gig, where's the rat race, how can I do it? Yeah. And Sean, I actually believe we can change the world. I actually believe that our thoughts are showing up the way that, if you have the next best feeling thought about yourself, followed closely by the very next best feeling thought you have about yourself, followed closely by the very next best imaginative, creative vision for yourself. Then
we become a society then that's unstuck, don't we?
Unstuck. So I would start there.
Absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for your time. That was a absolute powerhouse of stuff that was in there as we went 90 miles an hour through that. Thanks so much. We really appreciate you coming in.
I really appreciate the opportunity, Shona.
fabulous. And as ever, if you're watching this, if you've just stumbled across us, then please hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this and want to leave us a wee comment, we'd love to see the comments, or hit the like button. It really does help us to push out the reach of our podcast. And again, just to say that if you are watching and thinking, I could do that too, I've got stuff to say, then please do get in touch with us and come and join us for a chat on the next People Just Like Us.